Hey, welcome back. It's great to be here again. Hey, we're having a great month of exploring this core value of what it looks like to be original, what it looks like to believe that there is not a single person like you, that God created you unique, right? And we had an amazing time with Josh last week, wasn't it incredible? And I'm sure you had some time in your groups to explore some of the thoughts and the questions that Josh brought. But this week, hey, we're going to explore a bit deeper of what it looks like to face up to this villain of comparison. How many of you have ever compared yourself? You can just holler or put your hand up. Comparison is evil. I know in my own life that it's really been paralyzing, and it's really been it's held me back, and when you look back it kind of feels silly. But we want to talk about it today because we want to be a youth group, a community that the comparison doesn't infect our environment, right? We want to be free of comparison. So I'm really pumped because me and Josh have had talks about this before, and I know that this is again just something that Josh really walks in daily. So Josh, tell us about comparison, how in your own life and how you've learned to deal with it.
I've struggled with it for a long time. I've struggled with comparison over the years. And comparison for me ultimately comes down to a feeling of lessness. I even know that's a word. A phrase I think of quite a lot. Less. I feel less than.
Yes.
Lessness.
Yeah.
Like there's a part of me that's insufficient. Last week we spoke about briefly the parable of the talents. So the story that Jesus tells. And again, the point he's making is it was never about how much they were given. It was about what they did with it.
Right.
And so we've come to believe that in many different respects, if you have more gift, if you have better looks by this very, very specific, crazy sort of standard, if you have more, then you're better.
Yeah.
If you have less, then you're insufficient. And Jesus is saying, no. He makes the point of saying 1 had 10, 1 had 5, and 1 had 1, because he's saying in my kingdom, in this world where I live, it's not about how much you have. It's about how you see what you have. So comparison as a villain is constantly trying to get you to define your life in measurements of like how much. Like make it about social media. How many followers do I get? Like people are literally like killing themselves.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that metaphorically. They're ending their lives
Yeah.
over how many followers they have. Do I have this many likes? Do I have this many followers? And that is like the sort of definition of comparison. For where there's something in my life that communicates to me I am less. We have to name that.
Yes.
Last week we spoke about what do I feel about myself?
Yes.
We have to name it so that we can hear the voice of comparison coming through. So we can see it on a piece of paper, or we can hear ourselves say it. If we don't name it, put it this way, if it's hidden, it can't be healed. So we have to be upfront. This is how I'm comparing myself. I think that because my song has less streams than this guy, I'm obviously not as good. Just to say it. The more we say it, the more we own it. This is where the beauty comes in. The more ridiculous we realize it is. Right. I like to pull it to an extreme. Like we once had a conversation. I said, if we came out with a book, if we both went away and wrote a book, and it had the same title, maybe the design was even similar, right? We could still, because comparison is such a lie, we could still put those two books together and say, there is something completely original about these two pieces. There was never a point where comparison does anything good in your life, right? Because the ultimate truth is you have never been, by God, you have never been defined by how much you have. He's only interested in what are you gonna do with it?
Right.
I've given you. What are you gonna do with it?
Yeah.
I've given you. What are you going to give to the world with you? Because no one else can do it. There is no other person on this planet who's ever lived, and however long this world has been here, who could bring to the day that we're living right now what you can bring.
So
that's
good.
True.
So good.
That's mad that's true.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, bro, what would you say to the young people that are watching now, who may be hearing what you're saying, and they're like, I'm in a group of friends and I feel like everyone has more gifts than me and I'm less than everyone in so many things. how can I not compare myself when that fact is true? What would you say to that person?
Yeah.
That's an easy question to answer, but
No, it's a really good question. Well, we have to begin by saying how are we coming up with the results of this?
right.
How are we defining what's good? How are we defining, like, you know, how a gift could be greater than one other gift? How are we doing it? And sometimes, hear me out here, sometimes you have to recognize, oh, okay, the system is completely broken. So the whole idea that someone's gift,
Like how we measure it.
yeah. If it's a gift, I'm wearing, I don't know if you can see it, Dom. Can you see my boots? No. It's important that you see these boots. All right. Right now, I'm rocking a pair of Red Wing boots. If you Google these, you can see these are some expensive boots. And I wanted these boots for a long time. And then I knew I couldn't afford them. But one day, Kara's mom, my mother-in-law, bought me them. Every time I lace up these boots, I put a gift around my feet. When I walk in something that I did not earn or pay for.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the exact same thing when I do a poem or when I get up and do anything that you would call a gift.
Yes.
It's a gift.
Yes.
It was given to me. So when you see someone who has a gift, there is this incredible opportunity in your friendship group to see it as something that they didn't earn. Right? And therefore, you celebrating it doesn't cost you anything. If I celebrate the shoes that someone bought you, and you celebrate the shoes that someone bought me, doesn't make my shoes any less.
Right.
It was a gift. Now, your friends at school and the people around you who might not know God, they won't see the world like that. So this is where you get to be this incredible shining light, where everything that you have that could be used to sort of put you above someone else, you realize, man, I didn't earn this.
Yeah.
I was just born and I got it. Or maybe I had the idea of, like, if I worked really hard at something, I would end up developing it. Yeah. And just the capacity to work hard at it. What's that? It's a gift.
Yeah.
And so you celebrating someone else's gift doesn't take anything away from your gift, and someone else ignoring your gift doesn't take anything away from it. So I know that's kind of a big concept, but we have to begin there.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like the whole system's already broken, and we start working it into a system that doesn't work. So the real practical thing, and it's dangerous and it's uncomfortable, go celebrate them.
Yes.
Be the first person to compliment them. And when you feel your stomach churning with that bit of jealousy and that bit of like, you know how you tackle that? When that villain of comparison starts speaking, start celebrating. If comparison is the thief of joy, if comparison takes joy, what will bring it? The opposite.
Celebration.
Celebrate them.
Wow.
Celebrate them. Oh, you're amazing. And don't just say it because it's like words through gritted teeth. Mean it because it's true. Yeah.
That's awesome, yeah. So, I mean, I love, just in summary, I love this, you've been saying it for years, but this phrase, which I guess is kind of linked, it just really speaks to me in terms of this. It's like when, you know, we talked in the other video about when we know who we are and who God is, then we know that who we are is enough and is, you know, God wants us to be fully us. Yeah. And then that allows us to celebrate others and it sets us free from comparing ourselves. And the phrase that you say is, we have nothing to lose, nothing to prove, but nothing to protect. Imagine if in your friendship group, in your school, you were so convinced, like Josh was saying in the previous video, of who God says you are, of what his thoughts were about you. You were so convinced of that you felt in your heart that you had nothing to prove, nothing to lose, and nothing to protect in your conversations with your friends. When your friends told you that, you know, they did awesome in their exam, or when they got amazing Christmas presents and you didn't, that you didn't feel that thing, but you felt that you had nothing to lose, you had nothing to prove and nothing to protect, but you were so confident of who you are. That's where we're going, and it's possible, isn't it, Josh?
Oh, it's possible, and it's the best.
Yeah.
You start your day, you're like, nothing is a threat to me.
Right.
Nothing's a threat. Nothing can be taken. Paul said like this: it's no longer I who live. It's Christ who lives in me.
Wow.
So the life I live in the flesh, I live by faith. In what? In what you've achieved? No. In he who loves me and gave himself for me. Wow. You can't take anything from me.
So good.
I'm a dead man walking. You can't take anything from me. It's possible to live there, and it's not just good for you, it's good for everybody else.
It's amazing. So good. Wow, so awesome. So Josh, just share us two or three questions or thoughts that we can go away and think about, just to unpack this more, because I know that it can be quite deep-rooted, can't it? And it can be, hard to even
Totally.
confront. Yeah.
So here's a question. What makes you, you?
Wow.
What makes you, you? You ever thought about that? What makes you, you? If we're saying you're original, and if we're saying there's no one like you, tell us about you. What makes you, you? Whether you're doing it on your own, whether you're doing it in groups, spend some time thinking about that. What makes you, you? I had a conversation with some friends very recently, and they said, I wonder how people would describe me. Like, and you ever think about, I wonder how people, like, I maybe have a way that I would like people to describe me. I wonder if
Right.
it's a bit like what we talked about last week. The other thing to do, really, really practically, is have the courage to go to a really close and safe friend or family member and say, how do you describe me? Because so often what we hear back from people, sometimes we wouldn't even think about, describing ourselves with, and you're suddenly like, oh, you see me as courageous? You see me as creative?
Yeah,
You see me as joyful? That's what, because we can't see ourselves.
Yeah.
So what makes you, you? Spend some time with that question. It's really, really liberating. The other thing is this, what would you do in a situation, be it you're hanging out at school, you're at a club, like the clubs that you go to as a youth, what would you do if you were completely you in this moment?
Wow.
Right? Would you be sat on your phone scrolling? Or would you turn to the person and ask them a question, right? If you were totally you, because what makes you you is you're inquisitive and you're creative and you're encouraging, well, how would you do that moment differently? And then you literally, bro, you start practicing it.
Yeah.
You're like, okay, if Josh was being completely Josh, with nothing to lose, nothing to prove, what would he be doing right now? I can encourage this guy. And then you try it and you suddenly feel like, whew, I just was me, original me. I just did it. I'm out on the edge now.
So good. And may I just say that is you, Josh, as well.
Bro.
Such an encourager. So what makes you, you? And I think pair that with, like Josh said, maybe ask someone. Maybe ask someone how they view you. I think that's really important.
What would you do? What would describe
you said
me?
that.
How would you describe me?
How would you describe me? And ask someone. The second one was.
So it's what makes you you.
What makes you you?
And sometimes we struggle with that.
Yeah.
So then we go to the next one. How would you describe me?
How would you describe me?
And then the third one is, and I love this question because it almost doesn't make sense. What would I do in this situation? Like, what would I do defined by those two things? Knowing who I am in my original form, knowing that I'm not comparing myself. All right, well, what would I do? I don't know. I think I'd compliment them, or I think I'd crack a joke.
Yeah.
But you're not funny. That's not true. I'm gonna do it.
Yeah.
And if no one laughs, you can't take anything from me.
So good.
I just cracked a joke because that's who I am.
Yeah. So good. So good. So good. So yes, give that a go, guys, and let us know your stories and how this has been a blessing to you. We're really excited. I want to say again, just thank you so much, Josh, for being with us, and Eden, who was with us for a lot of it. Hey, next week we're going to be talking about another core value, so stick with us, and we'll see you soon. Blessings. Bye.